She did not just say it. She made sure her co-workers heard it, loud enough for the laugh to land and for the sting to lodge in my chest like a small piece of shrapnel. Do not be clingy. People might think we are actually a couple. That line was not a joke. It was a sharp little blade slipped between my ribs while she smiled at the catering manager and walked ahead like I was some hired hand who had crossed a line. No introduction. No name. Not even a look back. I stood there a beat, still holding her tired tote like a bellhop. My chest paused. Then I let out a slow, practiced breath. I set the bag down gently on the gravel. Then I turned away, past the fire pit, along the stone path edged with over-shaped boxwoods, out toward the lake. The place was huge. More than 40 acres, every inch manicured. Old money taste with new money lighting. I knew it well. Too well. The property used to sit under a subsidiary. They kept that quiet after the restructuring, but I recognized the curve of the hedge and the slope of the back lawn from aerial photos I studied during due diligence. All the things they thought were theirs had been built on handshakes and signatures I gave away without asking for credit. I preferred it that way. Legacy does not need a nameplate. But disrespect has a smell, and it trailed Emily like overpriced perfume. I stopped beneath an oak by the water and watched her work the crowd near the champagne station. She had that practiced ease, that laugh she used when she wanted attention without obligation. She was in her element, young, magnetic, and risky for anyone dumb enough to believe she valued people the way she valued impressions. Then I saw her boss, Brad. Tan face, slick posture, the post-private equity glow of a man who had not heard the word no in 5 years. He stepped onto the balcony above me with a drink in one hand and his phone in the other. He scanned the lawn like a lion hunting for a server. Then his eyes hit me and locked. His shoulders tightened. His phone drifted down to his side. His mouth opened like he might speak, but nothing came out. I gave him one nod. Nothing dramatic. Just a polite acknowledgement, like a ghost tipping his hat to the one guy who still knew where the bodies were buried. Brad did not wave. He did not smile. He spun and slipped back inside. I stayed put. I did not need to do anything else. Quick note for folks listening. More than 90% of you hearing this are not subscribed. If you like how this is unfolding, a quick tap on the subscribe button helps us keep telling hard-edged stories. It keeps the whole team fired up. Now back to it. I circled to the far side of the estate and leaned on the fence near the helipad. A light breeze cut through. A reminder that nature keeps its own tempo, no matter how much money you stack on top of it. These corporate retreats are not about bonding. They are about pecking orders. And the second Brad saw me, something in him cracked. An oak leaf skittered on the gravel behind me. The voices inside shifted from laughter to low murmurs. Whatever came next, I did not have to say a word. Inside the main lodge, Emily floated like she owned the oxygen, a glass of Prosecco in one hand. Her wrist draped across the arm of Tom, a senior manager she had been grooming to replace. Her smile looked like a photo shoot nobody else was invited to. Her charm always walked the line between strategic and cold. She knew when to laugh, when to tilt her head, when to brush an elbow just enough to smudge a boundary. It had always worked for her, until now. 30 feet away, behind a smoked glass door to the drawing room, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. "Sorry," Brad said, breaking into a casual chat about venture rollouts. He tugged at the sleeve of an older board member. "That man by the tree. Do you know who that is?" The board member, David, gray suit, face that never looked impressed, squinted through the glass. "Which man?" "That one," Brad said, leaning on the railing. "He came with her." David narrowed his eyes and pulled out his phone. A few taps. A pause. A breath. He glanced at another man by the fireplace. "Peter." Peter leaned forward, studied the screen, then looked out at me. His face drained fast, like someone shut off the blood supply. "You sure that is him?" Peter asked. Brad did not answer. He was busy staring again, like he had just realized he parked his yacht in a shark nursery. The problem was not that I was there. The problem was the way I was there. Unannounced. Not on any slide deck. Not on the invite list. Just present. Quiet. Watching. "He is not on the partner roster." Another board member, Susan, whispered as she stepped into the little huddle forming near the coat room. "He has not shown up in the press since, what, 2014? Try never," someone else muttered. "He ghosted after the Insight Technology buyout. Walked off mid-deal. Turned down the equity. said he had enough. Yeah, Susan said. And 2 weeks later, the Federal Trade Commission approved that merger without a single antitrust probe. Who do you think made that happen? Outside, I shifted my stance, just a little. Nothing showy, enough for the wind to slip through my jacket. It was an old barber coat she once mocked for looking cheap. I liked it. It did not brag. The pockets had their own history. She brought him here, Brad muttered under his breath, and introduced him like that. He did not say the rest. He did not have to. They all caught the meaning, like I was nobody. It was not only insulting. It was dangerous. Because if I was who they now suspected, and she treated me like a weekend toy, then she was either boldly arrogant or painfully ignorant. Neither plays well in a boardroom. And there she was, Emily, laughing by the charcuterie table, taking selfies with a marketing director, never once looking over at the quiet storm curling behind the library doors. It was like watching someone sip wine in a burning room, unaware the paint was already softening on the walls. Her assistant walked by and handed her a printed agenda for the Saturday morning strategy session. Emily rolled her eyes and barely looked at it. I am not doing that deck unless Kevin helps with the numbers, she said, naming a junior vice president who adored her. I am here to network, not babysit spreadsheets. Someone behind the curtain heard that too. Someone who had already started digging, pulling old emails, deal memos, cross-referenced initials, and patterns tied to off-record advisory work. A name had been whispered earlier. It was not a name you would find on LinkedIn. It was the name on a foundation that quietly seeded half a dozen firms, including the one that owned the estate we were standing on. And still, Emily glided through the room like a woman giving a TEDx talk in heels, bright, smooth, unaware. But now her name had begun sliding into the board's mental compliance ledger under due diligence failure. Once that column starts filling, charm does not clear it. During the crash of 2008, while most people were clawing their way out from under leveraged debt and praying the banks did not pull the noose tight, I sat across from 3 failing logistics companies. Each was hemorrhaging cash, leadership, and direction. I did not hand them a lifeline. I handed them structure, silence, anonymity, and one rule: no press, no credit, no noise. The kind of arrangement where my name lived 6 layers deep in internal paperwork, pseudonyms, proxy firms, third-party signatures. I did not want spotlight deals. I wanted leverage that could wait. The first outfit, Hallberg Freight, was a tangle of bad regional contracts and foolish warehouse plans. I cleaned house, rewired their routes, and tucked them under a blind holding company. Years later, that same group purchased this estate, quietly, as part of an executive hospitality plan. Emily had bragged about the venue like it was a secret luxury. I already had the blueprints saved in an old archive. The second company was Dominion Transit, Brad's current employer. He once pitched a doomed pivot into last-mile services before I corrected their vertical strategy and placed 2 board members with direct ties to federal infrastructure advisors. He never saw my hand. But I made sure his corner office had reinforced walls, because without me, there would not have been an office. The third, my crown piece, holds one of the most quietly aggressive licensing portfolios on the planet. A single proprietary scanning algorithm we secured in 2011 now runs through 3 global customs networks, 5 major pharmaceutical pipelines, and 80% of maritime import ledgers. I keep that one especially close. It is why the right people nod when they see me, and the wrong people never realize they already lost. Emily never asked. She never wondered how I knew so much about internal politics or those quarterly ghostwrite tactics. She did not notice when I steered her naive board pitch away from a trap clause in a compliance protocol. She thought I was simply observant, just curious. She once joked I gave off-brand billionaire vibes. I laughed it off. But inside that house, people knew. Or rather, they remembered. David, the board member who had spotted me through the window, was now reviewing a printed scan, not on a phone. On paper. Secure. Handed to him in a folder by a partner who used to run finance at Hullbrook. David did not say much. He looked at the name, the real name, the one never put in company press kits, and then at the estate walls. I thought he retired, someone said quietly. David did not answer. His eyes slid toward Emily at the wine bar, now softly arguing with the event planner about the Sunday brunch seating chart. She brought him here, he murmured. She dismissed him here, another corrected. And that was the point. It was not that I used to matter. It was how I still did. It is not that I used to matter. I still do, in ways that do not rely on a LinkedIn headline or a glossy magazine spread. Real influence is not volume. It is plumbing and wiring. When you are the pipeline, you do not need to raise your voice. Emily spent months trying to win their attention. She reworked slide decks, rehearsed pitches, and polished branding like she was at a National Basketball Association startup boot camp. I had seen that routine before. I had funded better versions of it. And every time she talked about connecting with the board, I stepped back and let her try to turn charm into clout, watching her fake fluency in a language with rules she did not even know existed. Meanwhile, the room itself kept reminding me of choices I had made. The lighting system that washed the ceiling? I signed off on that during the renovation. The furniture contracts? One of my quiet side plays, reclaimed pieces sourced from decommissioned rail lines I helped salvage in 2010. Every corner around us hummed with decisions I once put in motion. She could not hear any of it yet. Arrogance is loud. Legacy does not need to shout. They say ego blinds you before it drowns you. Emily was still dancing in the shallows, not noticing the tide had already turned. She laughed with a creative director by the Prosecco station and bit into a fig crostini like a wink, and a cute story had just earned her the next promotion. Her heels did not sink into the grass. Her posture advertised practiced grace. She never glanced over her shoulder until a hand touched her elbow. The touch was not rough, but it was firm enough to stop her mid-sentence. Brad's face was not angry. It was worse, drawn tight, pale, carrying a kind of inward pressure she did not recognize yet. "Walk with me," he said. She followed, a little confused, the nervous smile starting to stutter at the edges. Maybe she thought he would compliment her preparation or pass along a last-minute tip for the strategy huddle. Her shoulders stayed squared, hips still swinging just enough to sell confidence. Near the catering tent, Brad stopped. He did not look at her at first. He let out a breath. Then he spoke. "Do you understand who you just embarrassed in front of the board?" The words landed like a slap, not because he raised his voice, but because the temperature dropped. It was clinical. No room for misunderstanding. "Excuse me," she said. He pointed through the gap, past the bar staff, toward the railing where I stood, sipping water like a man who did not need a thing from anyone in that place. "That man," Brad said, low and clipped. "He is the reason our third-quarter crisis never hit the news." He structured the advisory exit from the Abraisis audit. He made 2 phone calls that rewired half our back and without setting off compliance. And you just introduced him like a forgettable side piece, then mocked him. Her mouth opened a little. He did not let her speak. "He did not need to tell you," Brad said, finally turning and meeting her eyes. "We already said it for him, years ago, every time our signatures stayed clean. Every time we did not end up on the cover of Fortune for the wrong reason." She swallowed. "He told me he was just consulting," she whispered. "He is," Brad said, with a short, humorless laugh. "Which should worry you more? It means he does not owe you explanations. And still, he walked in here with you. You brought him, and what did you do? You treated him like an intern carrying your sunscreen." Emily started to speak and then shut her mouth because she did not have a script for this. All her little tactics, the social nudges, the performance, the gentle digs that chipped at a man's confidence so she could slide into the competent role, crumpled under one bright fact. She had no idea who I really was. "He never told me about the Abraisis audit," she said quietly, grabbing for anything that might play in front of a board. "I did not even know he." "Maybe that is the problem," Brad said. "You did not ask." Silence. Wind pushed the tent flaps. Ice rattled in a cocktail shaker from 50 feet away. And then Brad said the sentence that fixed the ground under her feet. "You did not just insult a guest," he told her. "You insulted the man whose silent nod is the reason you have a job. And now everyone in that boardroom is asking whether you are too arrogant or too careless to be trusted with influence." Her eyes flicked toward me. I did not move. I did not look back. I did not need to. Legacy does not argue in public. It waits for truth to echo louder than the spin. She took a step back, then another, as if distance could rewind impact. But the space between us was not empty anymore. It was a crater, a clean outline of the opportunity she had just set on fire in front of the most powerful people she had ever met. And the burn had only started. That evening, the sun slid behind the tree line like it did not want to watch what came next. The string lights blinked on. Music drifted out from the patio speakers. Light jazz, the kind someone picks when they think ambience means ignore the problem. I was in no hurry. I lingered near the indoor fireplace, nursing a small pour of Ardbeg and listening. Not to the words so much. To the movement. Who stopped laughing? Who kept sneaking looks at the library doors like they were waiting for the floor to shake? Then the invitation arrived, a discreet nod from David, followed by a quiet word to the event manager. He is ready now? They walked me down a short corridor past a painting of a battleship I once kept from being sold off in a hostile merger. Funny how these houses fill up with artifacts and never learn the stories behind them. The boardroom ran warm. Walnut paneling, low lights, the soft smell of old money. Half the board was already seated. The rest slipped in behind me, shaking hands with that careful, deliberate polish you see in people who know the pecking order but are not sure where I sit in it. David stood first. "It has been years, sir," he said. No sarcasm, just recognition. A newer director, a woman who had taken a seat from a hedge fund that swallowed 3 divisions last year, tilted her head. "Would you consider an advisory role?" she asked. "We are reworking our intermodal strategy. Your insight would." I lifted a hand. "I am here for the weekend." The room nodded. No pushback. Everyone understood what that meant. Outside that door, Emily was circling, trying to claw back footing. She cornered the chief operating officer by the appetizers, holding a glass of red like a stage prop she had not rehearsed with. "Look," she began, "there is some confusion. He and I dated casually. It is not like I knew." He never said. The chief operating officer, Rick, folded his napkin with slow, neat care. Then he looked up with an expression every master of business administration program should frame under the title, "How to Know You Lost." "Then you made 2 serious mistakes," he said. "You insulted him, and you did not know better." Emily opened her mouth, but no sound made it out. "We vet everyone," Rick went on. "Advisors, vendors, even caterers. You brought a man who could walk into any of our partners' boardrooms and clear the room, and you did not think to ask who he really was." She tried to laugh it off. "Okay, but that is not completely fair. He does not exactly broadcast credentials. He did not even tell me his last name for weeks." "That is not his job," Rick said, flat as a level. "It was your job to know who you were dragging into our inner circle." An hour later, when I crossed the lounge again, the playlist had shifted, less saxophone, more strings. Half the board had vanished to late calls and side briefings. Emily stood by the garden doors, gripping her drink like a life preserver. Her eyes found me, and then snapped away when I looked back. First smart choice she had made all weekend. Someone she had courted for months walked right past her. No pause. No nod. Just gone. That is when she understood. She might be physically in the room, but she was not in the room that mattered. The real conversations, the ones shaping the next year of the company, were happening behind glass she no longer had the key to. For the first time since I met her, she looked truly alone. Not the curated, "I am just independent" version she sold on social media. The real kind. The kind that shows up when you realize every ladder you climbed was built by people you never bothered to thank. And now the rungs are coming loose, one by one. Morning came the way it always does at a polished estate. Fresh linens. Fancy eggs. Coffee strong enough to pretend nobody was hungover. Under the shine, you could smell something else, a reshuffle. The official agenda went up in the main hall. Strategy panels. Executive brunch. A branding breakout at noon. Emily had the 9:30 slot, right after Brad's vision remarks. She bragged about that 2 nights ago, called it a sign of growing trust. Only the room did not feel like trust anymore. At 8 o'clock, I sat on the patio with a cappuccino when a board member approached, careful, like admitting he needed help might cost him points. He slid a thin folder across. "We have a problem," he said. "Valkyr freight acquisition is stalled. Regulators in China are circling. We are burning goodwill, and the internal model is garbage." I skimmed 3 pages, tapped a single line. "This," I said. "Reverse it. You are front-loading market assumptions instead of letting performance trends drive positioning. Flip it. Lead with data, not ambition." He did not even sit. He nodded, snatched the file, and hurried off like he was carrying a live grenade someone had finally shown him how to disarm. By 8:45, 2 more directors happened to stroll by the patio. One dropped a name, another dropped a folder. By 9:10, Brad himself came out, shook my hand again. He did not say much. He did not need to. That is the luxury of legacy. Silence speaks its own language. Inside, Emily was prepping alone. Brad was conspicuously absent. She asked the assistant if he would be joining her. The answer came back. He had been pulled into a separate briefing. That meeting did not exist. They just did not want him standing beside her when she crashed. When she walked into the room for her session, there were fewer smiles than usual. Less eye contact. None of that polite energy executives use when they plan to flatter you first and watch you fail second. She took her place behind the podium, opened the laptop, and tapped her nails on the case while the projector caught up. The lights dimmed. Slide 1, Market Share Metrics. Slide 2, Forecasting Model. Slide 3, Risk Disclosures. She drew breath to explain the heat map when David stood. "We will review this later," he said, flat as concrete, not even meeting her eyes. "We have other priorities this morning." She froze. You could hear the fan inside her laptop start to whine, that desperate little whir of a machine trying not to overheat. Her mouth opened, then shut. She stared at David, then at another director. Nobody looked back. She stepped away from the podium slowly, as if moving softly might let her slip out of the moment unnoticed. But they noticed. Everybody noticed. The rising star, the vision with teeth, as one glossy write-up once called her, now looked like an intern giving a capstone talk to a room of men and women who had already chosen someone else to trust. She walked to her chair and stopped. It was not where she left it. It had been nudged a little off-center. So small a shift most people would miss it. She did not. Her hand shook as she tried to straighten it. For the first time, the word optics left her mouth not as strategy, but as fear. Outside the glass, I had not moved. Still sipping coffee. Still not on any agenda. Inside, the structure was moving anyway. Not with announcements. Not with memos. With momentum, and every ounce of it was sliding away from her. She locked her suite door and yanked off her blazer like it was suffocating her. The fabric still smelled like lavender oil and softener. Little comforts she had requested before the retreat. None of it matched her pulse now. The welcome basket sat perfectly arranged on the dresser, untouched. A bottle of red wine and 2 glasses still wrapped in tissue for the victory toast she had planned after her talk. She kicked off her heels, sent them skidding across the rug, and paced barefoot in tight loops. Short breaths. Fingers twitching over her phone screen. She had not eaten. She had not really processed what David said. Her mind tunneled the second he stood and shut her down like a busted demo day pitch. The work, the positioning, the strategy, it all evaporated in under a minute. Shame stopped being theoretical. It got into the body. Her skin buzzed with it. She opened her contacts and scrolled. Her father's name showed up like a lifeline she had not needed in years. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey, Pumpkin. You all right?" "Dad," she whispered. Do you know someone named?" She had to push the words out. "Greg Walker." The silence that followed was not surprise. It was sorrow. A long breath filled the line. "Sweetheart," he said at last, voice heavy. "You just insulted the man who saved our company in 2009. Her mouth went dry. "He what?" "Greg Walker is not just a person," her father said. "He is a system. A shadow. A force." He turned the lights back on when we were 2 quarters from collapse. He stepped in without taking credit. Took a backroom chair. Reworked the debt. Reset the executive compensation stack. Got us out clean on a handshake. We offered him a board seat. He refused. Said, "You already have your uncle. He will do fine." Her legs gave. She sat hard on the edge of the bed. "He does not do press," her father went on. "He does not do photos. Half the people who know his name never even met him. But they owe him. Everybody owes him. I have seen senators defer to him in private. Banks listen when he whispers. And you waved him off like he was valet." She closed her eyes and covered her mouth. He was not yelling. That made it worse. He spoke with a kind of reverence she had never heard from him, not for any man. Not even for her grandfather. "I thought he was just some—" She stopped. "He never told me who he was." "And why would he?" her father said, the warmth gone. "He never does. Real influence does not beg for affirmation. He lets people show who they are. And you just showed him." Her eyes burned. The room felt too bright. Her brain replayed every conversation. The times she talked over me, corrected me in meetings, tossed little jabs in front of others like I was riding her momentum. She even remembered teasing the old jacket I wore to dinner, called it weathered, like it was a flaw. Silence has its own grammar. Inside, Emily was getting ready by herself. Brad was not there on purpose. She asked an assistant if he would be joining her. The answer: he had been pulled into a separate briefing. There was no briefing. They just did not want him standing next to her when she went down. When she stepped in for her session, the room felt colder than usual. Fewer smiles. Less eye contact. None of that polite wind-up executives use when they intend to watch you stumble. She stood at the podium, opened her laptop, and tapped her nails while the projector caught up. Lights dimmed. Slide 1, Market Share Metrics. Slide 2, Forecasting Model. Slide 3, Risk Disclosures. She drew breath to explain the heat map. David stood. "We will review this later," he said, flat and final, not even looking at her. "We have other priorities this morning." She froze. You could hear the laptop fan whine, a small machine begging not to overheat. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked to David, then to another director. No one met her eyes. She stepped away from the podium slowly, as if a soft exit could erase the moment. It did not. Everyone saw it. The supposed rising star, the vision with teeth, as one glossy piece once called her, now looked like an intern pitching a capstone to a room that had already found someone else to trust. She reached her chair and paused. It was not where she left it, nudged a little off-center. A tiny thing, easy to miss. She noticed. Her hand shook as she tried to square it. For the first time, the word optics left her lips not as strategy, but as fear. Outside the glass, I had not moved. Still sipping coffee. Still nowhere on the official agenda. Inside, the structure was realigning, not with announcements or memos, but with momentum. All of it moving away from her. She locked her suite door and ripped off her blazer like it was choking her. The fabric still smelled of lavender oil and softener, little comforts she had requested before the retreat. None of it matched her heartbeat now. The welcome basket sat untouched on the dresser. A bottle of red wine and 2 glasses, still wrapped in tissue, waited for the victory toast she had planned. She flung her heels across the rug and paced barefoot in tight, frantic loops. Short breaths. Fingers tapping at her phone screen. She had not eaten. She barely registered what David said. Her mind tunneled the second he cut her off like a failed pitch at a shaky demo day. All the work and positioning evaporated in under a minute. Shame stopped being an idea and turned physical. Her skin buzzed with it. By Sunday evening, the air across the estate had shifted. On the surface, the show went on. Smiles traded, hands shaken, a jazz quartet bouncing something cheerful by the dock. Underneath, it was colder. A quiet perimeter formed around her. People still greeted her, but no one waved her into the next room. Conversations clipped shut when she approached. Her name, once peppered into every strategic talk, went silent. Then the message came, a firm knock on her suite door. An assistant, stiff posture, eyes fixed at a point above her shoulder, handed her a sealed envelope. "Your stay has been extended by 1 night," the assistant said. "There is a feedback session scheduled for 6:30 in room 14. Emily blinked. No one mentioned. "The board added it this morning," the assistant said, and left. Inside the envelope was a printed agenda. 1 page. 10 items. Number 7 stopped her breath. Advisor session. Greg Walker. The letters looked chiseled in stone. No context. No explanation. Just a name she now could not read without getting sick. She dressed without a word. Navy blouse. No jewelry. Low heels. The kind of outfit she wore when she expected to speak to important people. Only this time, nobody asked her to speak. By the time she reached room 14, the hallway was almost empty. The windows showed only her reflection and the string lights swaying outside. She sat in a high-back chair across from the door, legs crossed, holding the agenda like a shield. At 6:31, the door opened. Brad stepped out. No smile. No, how are you? He handed her a second page, short, tight. "Before we begin," he said flat, "review this. It outlines concerns raised over the weekend." She scanned fast, bullet points and vague phrasing. Misjudgment, misrepresentation, reputational risk. Her throat tightened. "No one told me this was happening," she said. He finally met her eyes. "That is exactly the problem." He turned and slipped back inside, leaving the door just ajar, enough to hear low voices, not enough to be part of them. She stood there, unsure if she should enter or wait. The door closed. Soft, decisive. She sat, clutching the paper. She did not know what was worse, being left outside, or knowing my name was printed on the agenda inside. I walked past her 10 minutes later. Not fast, not slow, straight. I did not look at her. I did not stop. I offered no gesture of familiarity, because there was none. We were not we. If we are honest, we probably never were. She turned her head as I passed, as if catching my eyes might rewind the tape. I did not stop. I did not speak. When the door closed behind me, the padded clicks sounded louder than anything she had heard all weekend. She sat outside for 30 more minutes. No one came for her. No one explained. When the door finally opened again, it was not for Emily. It was for another outside advisor the board had flown in that morning. She was not being included. She was being replaced. Not with a bang, but with a nod, a signature, a quiet exchange of chairs. Her name stayed on the schedule. It just stopped meaning anything. 2 weeks later, the retreat had faded into a blur of shame and unasked questions. She did not tell anyone the truth of it. She went home and snapped back into her curated routine. Matcha in the morning. Inbox cleared before 10. Motivational lines pinned on the fridge. The silence did not lift. It hung over her desk, her phone, her mirror. She kept checking Slack channels that had gone quiet. Watch meetings she once ran get reassigned without comment. Told herself it was a post-retreat lull. Any day now, someone would call. Then the mail arrived. A thick envelope arrived by courier, certified delivery. No handwritten note. No call. Just the letterhead of the firm she used to treat like her personal playground. Effective immediately, your strategic oversight privileges are suspended pending further review. It was not a request, not a warning. It was a freeze. The kind that tells you the board is done pretending you belong. She stared at it for a full minute, then opened the second letter. Shorter, colder. This one was from Brad. We trusted your judgment, but your lack of due diligence reflects poorly on this firm. Until further notice, you are relieved of all client-facing responsibilities. No signature, just his name typed in clean Helvetica. Brutal professionalism. She read both letters 3 times. Once to understand, twice to accept. By the 4th pass, her hands were shaking. It was real now. Not a cold shoulder. Not a snub in a boardroom. Not a weird silence at brunch. This was exile on company letterhead. She did not cry. Not at first. She paced. She opened her laptop and started a message to her assistant, asking if there had been some mistake. Halfway through, she deleted it. What could she say? She had not just misread the room. She had misread the wiring behind the walls. And I was not answering her texts. She checked her messages. 9 unread. None from me. She scrolled to my name and pressed call. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. On the 3rd try, her voice cracked on the first syllable of my name. She cleared her throat and spoke fast, like speed could outrun shame. I did not mean it. I did not know. If I had known, her voice caught. I thought you were just. I do not know what I thought. I am sorry. Click. She did not know I listened to it twice. I did not reply. Not out of anger. Not to punish her. Some mistakes do not need retribution. They only need to be seen. And she finally saw it. Every person she tried to impress. Every door she thought opened for charm alone. It had never been charm. It was my silence. My access. My presence. Now she stood outside all of it, staring at doors that used to open without effort. Access, once revoked, does not always come back, especially when the person holding the key keeps quiet. The ballroom was full, high ceilings, gold trim, banners, corporate logos, elegant serif fonts. The annual summit always put on a show. Chief executives talked about panels and environmental, social, and governance compliance while they sniffed around for mergers and exits in side rooms. I had not shown my face at one in more than 10 years. My name had turned into a rumor, more a whisper than a resume. This year, I was invited quietly. No announcement. No red carpet. Just a reserved seat on the left side of the stage, next to 3 people who had once sat in my office begging for bridge capital, misspelling half the terms on their forms. After the final keynote, the lights dropped. A moderator introduced a new initiative, a $400 million strategic fund aimed at infrastructure efficiency and supply chain resilience across North America. The crowd murmured. The slide advanced. My name appeared. No photograph. No biography. 3 words. Legacy Strategic Advisor, GW. No applause. But the right people sat straighter. They understood. Behind the curtain, there was a closed-door meeting with 7 board members and 2 government liaisons. I said very little, clarified 1 clause, shifted 1 milestone in the fund structure. It was enough. That evening, I left through a side exit. Skipped the gala. Did not need it. By morning, a press photo made the rounds. I was in the corner of the stage, arms folded, listening to the last speaker. In the background, near the edge of the frame, stood Emily, blurred, silent, offstage. A blazer trying to look powerful over a posture that had forgotten how. She was not listed in the release. Not quoted in the write-ups. No one said her name. She was simply present, the way wallpaper is. That night, a message came in. Short. Late. Typed like a confession with no punctuation. Why did you not warn me? I looked at it for a moment. No rage. No pride. Just a plain truth that had been waiting since day one. I replied, you warned yourself. You just did not listen. Then I turned off the phone. Not out of cruelty. Out of peace. There was nothing left to explain. No revenge planned. No scheme carried out. Her fall was hers, built slowly and carelessly from ego and assumption. All I did was stand still long enough for the truth to do what it always does. Echo louder than the lie.